Hey everybody, welcome back to A Brief on Grief. Today, well, as you can see from the last couple of videos, or the last few videos for sure, it's a time of a lot of rumbling and shaking and shifting and change and loss for me the last little while, especially the last few weeks. And something has come to me today, which I knew eventually it would. Yesterday was a day of a lot of grieving, and some awareness into how much I've actually been holding on to some grief for a couple relationships in my life, important long-term friendships that I've had, and that I've seen a lot of change in one of them over the last year. And then when I think of the second one, it's actually been a lot of change in the last several years, but just some more awareness and grounding in it the last year, as I kind of ground in a lot of things related to relationships and such, and on the topic of grief. So, yesterday in that grief, I knew, like I always do, this is what comforts me when I'm in grief. And when I'm struggling is that I always know that there's like the light at the end of the tunnel. I always know that just sitting and being with myself in it, without trying to overthink things. Or yesterday I had to do a lot of kind of mental training around, because I got an email from a friend, so around trying to be like, what do I want to say back, and how do I want to reply, and what's important to me, and all those things. And I was just like, I had to keep stopping myself, be like, this is not the time for it, Kimberly. Now is the time to grieve and to ground in some of the emotions that you've been feeling and how long you've been feeling them, and maybe getting some more clarity on all that, and just being with that, being with it, and knowing that the clarity on what I wanted to say and what was supposed to come up from all of this will come to me in time, and it always does. I'm feeling some of it already today, just one day later, and I'm sure there's more to come. But today was very clear to me. I found my way to a video, the tapping stuff that I do, about needing to teach someone a lesson. And I thought, yeah, I've kind of grown up, like not in that, of course, like I'm guilty of this too, when we're in pain and we kind of want to do something that teaches somebody a lesson, because we think they caused us pain and we want to cause them pain back. Yes, I'm guilty of that. This is another example, a different example of this kind of teaching a lesson. The role that I've played kind of all my life, I'm realizing, but in a different way in the last few years, is this belief, or this role that I've taken on, that I don't have to, that I have to teach people spiritual lessons. So more specifically now, before it was, lessons, but now it's kind of like spiritual lessons, because I've gained like some of this wisdom and the amazingness, and it just kind of oozes out of me, right? This passion and inspiration to share it. And I know that that's going to be amazing for me moving forward in things that I want to do, in a new career and stuff. But I got some real clarity of how that is not always a helpful trait in your personal relationships. Because in this work, spiritual work, you realize that when you put yourself out in the world, not everybody's going to resonate with what you're saying. Not everybody's going to really know what you're saying. Not everybody's going to be open to even understanding it. And even some people will resist it. And sometimes, with judgments and things like that are not nice, or just with stepping back and not being available to be there, because it can stir up reactions in people. It can stir up things, and I get it, because I remember being in that position. So I realized that as a big picture with the work that I want to bring into the world, and being aware of that I'm not going to be able to teach everybody. I'm not going to be able to be a teacher to everybody. Not everybody's walking like their own path, and not everybody is ready to hear some of the things that I may have to share, or may want to share and have to teach. But clarity on how that can affect the people closest to you when you play that role. So your friends and your family, if some of those people are not ready to hear some of this passion and inspiration and lessons and wisdom that's just oozing out of you, it can create resistance in the relationship. And I became very aware of that yesterday, and the grief of that. And when I was outside walking today and thinking, oh, I kind of want to make a video on this, I was like, okay, how's this related to grief? And it kind of popped up right away. But as I walked more, I was just like, oh my God, this is related to grief in a big way. So because I've learned that any behaviors that we kind of adapt to, or any behaviors that we adopt as young children, is always out of self-protection. So when I think of that, I was like, well, what made me adapt? Because I not only had this role, this teaching role, healing role, behavior just in the last couple of years. I had it before too. So I was like, what made me adopt this? Well, how is it protecting me? And on the topic of grief, it was so easy to come up. I think I named 5 things. So let's see if I can bring them all up right now. The first thing I can think of, and I'm thinking of this in a specific relationship, if a relationship has changed in any way and you're grieving the way it was before, you will have grief about wanting it maybe the way it was before, or hope, right? You're holding on to hope that something may change if the other person changes, right? And we know we're not supposed to try to change anybody, right? So that was one thing. The other one is the grief that we feel when we watch somebody we love hurting, right? That's not very pleasant. We don't want to feel that. So we think that if we can open the door and teach them some wise knowledge and stuff that will help them not hurt more, then it makes us hurt less, right? Thirdly, we struggle with watching people we love hurt, and we want to do something to help them, right? So we have this urgency to help their pain. And then sometimes we can, if it doesn't help, then you feel helpless, and that can create some pain and grief in yourself too, by not being able to do and not being able to help. What was the other one? So relationship change, watching people hurt, not being able to help. And then just the overall grief that you're avoiding maybe feeling because of the whole change of the relationship, and you're trying to avoid letting go and feeling that grief. You're trying to avoid seeing this as reality, and that it may not change, and it may never change, and being okay with that. And to get to a place where you're okay with that kind of means you have to feel the grief of it. So I can't really think of what the 5th one was, but not important. If it comes up, maybe it'll come up in another video. But I believe I'm not going to speak for anything, I believe I adopted that behavior for all of those reasons. I wanted to protect myself from feeling more grief, whether it was indirectly through watching somebody else be in pain that I cared about. Oh, I just thought of the other one. This is really important. The other one is when someone's in pain, the connection and the love and maybe the time that you see them and stuff could play a factor in, could be changing because they're struggling, right? You know, if somebody's going through a hard time in their life, you may not see them as much. They may be pulling away. They may not be able to communicate and connect with you the way they do. And there's a lot of pain in that. I know there's a lot of pain in that for me, and a lot of grief in that. So again, I feel like if I can impose this grand wisdom on them because I see that they're hurting and I don't want them to hurt anymore, and I don't want to hurt anymore, I believe that it will help them, right? And in the end, it will help both of us. But I'm trying to just keep it kind of focused on the behavior, why I adopted the behavior personally, right, as a protective mechanism. So it's a big clarity. It's a big clarity today, and there's going to be a lot still shifting, I think, with it. But there was a lot of inspiration to come and make a video about this. So yeah, we can't be everybody's teacher. We can be a teacher. We can courageously share our experiences, our wisdom, our passion, our inspiration with the world. We're actually meant to do that. So that we are meant to do that. Oh, I just thought of something else. I'm going to finish this thought. But not everybody's going to be ready for it. Not everybody's going to be ready for what we have to share, especially when the people closest to us are not ready. It can interfere with our connection and our relationships. It doesn't mean that you should stop sharing your authentic self and your inspiration and your passion with the people that are closest to you. It's just, I think, an awareness for me that to be aware of signs that it's maybe not being able to be received the way you want. So yeah, there's going to be more coming up for me for that. But what I just realized is that because we're all meant to be teachers and creators and connectors and to serve the world and to help human beings and humankind evolve and help our whole world evolve and heal, that is our biggest journey in this life that we call human life, us spirits having this human life. And I think because a lot of us haven't found an avenue for that, or are still trying to find an avenue to do that with the world, it naturally flows out from us anyway, right? So I'm just thinking I still had this kind of behavior even before I went through this journey with me. So I think not only is it a protective behavior, but I think it's a behavior coming out of the energy from your soul that actually wants to do some of this work and do this soul work that we're all meant to do. I love that. I love that came up right in the middle of this. Okay, I think that's it for today, everybody. Thanks. Bye.